Welcome everyone to this very special edition of IAG's Trade Talk. I'm joined today by Inside Asian Gaming Vice Chairman and CEO Andrew W. Scott. We're talking today, of course, about the very sad passing of Mr. Sheldon Adelson last week. And Andrew, you've spent a lot of time in Mr. Adelson's properties around the world. What are your thoughts on his passing?
Well, as you say, I spent a lot of time initially in Las Vegas. In the 90s, I used to go to Las Vegas sort of 3 or 4 times a year for 3 or 4 weeks each time. So I would spend maybe a quarter of my time in Las Vegas. It's like a second home. And obviously, Sheldon Adelson just transformed that town. I mean, when I first started going, we'd play in places like the Mirage, we'd play at MGM, we'd play at downtown at the Golden Nugget, those sort of places. And then we heard about Sheldon Adelson, he acquired the Sands, and then he was going to build this thing called the Venetian. And then we heard 6,000 rooms. It was unheard of. 6,000 rooms in 2 phases, 3,000, or it was something like that. My numbers might be slightly off, but back in the old days, integrated resorts, and they weren't even called integrated resorts back then, would have a few hundred rooms, maybe many hundreds, but certainly not 1,000. And then Sheldon came along and blew that out of the water. And back in the olden days, I'm sounding old now, but you used not to be able to pay $100 for a hotel room in Las Vegas. It wasn't possible. A hotel room in Las Vegas was $20. And if you wanted to stay in some gorgeous suite, it was $50. And that was all supported by the gaming industry. And then Sheldon came along and changed all that. It was an amazing marketing effort. He managed to change things so that now we would pay $100, $150, $200, $300 for a hotel room. And he just did that by raising the bar of the standard. He just brought a new element of luxury to Las Vegas that just didn't exist. And I still remember, it was before my time, but I still remember older guys when I was very young talking about sawdust joints and carpet joints. And back in the old days, a classy property was classy because it had carpet on the ground, and it used to have, they literally did have, before my time, but I heard about it, places with sawdust on the ground. These were the cheap places. So Vegas was kind of seedy and kind of, cheap back then. And Sheldon just changed all that and totally changed the way that we thought. He really was transformative. So, even, the way he brought Comdex to town was just incredible. And he never really used a computer, but yet he had the world's greatest trade show. And I remember Comdex would come to town and you couldn't get a hotel room. You could not get a hotel room. In fact, more people attended Comdex than there were hotel rooms in Las Vegas. And Las Vegas has got more hotel rooms than any city of the world. I think 180 odd thousand now. Back then it might have been 120,000, but people would fly in from California in the morning, go to Comdex, and then fly back that night because they simply couldn't get a room. It was pretty amazing. So, and then what he did in Singapore and Macau, bringing that to Macau, he did the same thing for Macau as what he did in Las Vegas, transformed it. Macau was kind of aging at the time, and then he brought a whole new level of luxury. And, congratulations to the Macau government for having the foresight to take a risk on a guy like him and bring him into town.
And of course, we lost Dr. Stanley Ho last year. So we've lost 2 of the industry's, possibly the 2 industries' greatest ever visionaries in the space of 8 or 9 months. I mean, will we see that sort of character, or, someone that's really take a risk like that in the future?
Look, I lament the loss of those kind of characters. I mean, we've got those sort of I call them charismatic entrepreneurs. They're brash, they're strong, they're their own men, they're self-made men, they prepared to take risks. And then you've got the next generation that comes through. I'm not talking about the kids, but I'm talking about the next generation of leaders comes through that worked for them, and then there's succession planning, and they tend to be more the suit and ties. And the suit and ties are your Harvard MBAs and that sort of thing. And they have a different mindset to the sort of charismatic leader, serial entrepreneur that Mr. Adelson was, and that Stanley Ho, Dr. Ho was. And I lament the passing of those guys. I mean, our industry, we're not running churches here. We're running adult playgrounds, basically, right? Integrated resorts. And sure, we market them sometimes as family friendly and so forth. And we do have family friendly aspects to it. But You know, these are places that are places that you go to have fun, and I hope that we don't lose that sort of slightly edgy, fun, risk-taking element that those guys brought. And they took lots of risks, and they made it fun, and they created visionary things. And you can't create wonderful things like that without taking some risks. So if you're very suit and tie, you know, Harvard MBA type, you tend to protect your job rather than focus on the company. So I hope that we do get some visionary leaders coming through. Of course, they're not all gone. I mean, look at Galaxy with Loi Chi Wu and Francis. They've made something amazing in under 20 years, from zero to hero in under 20 years. But you know, it is concerning, and I hope we do have some new personalities coming through that can take those kind of risks and can wow us and make mistakes and also make great things as well.
I guess the irony is that, you know, during the challenging times we're experiencing right now, you know, we may need strong leaders more than ever before, but I guess time will tell on that front. Andrew, great to chat with you.
No, thank you very much, Ben.